Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope everyone's having a great day. Today is tier list day. So, before we get started, I know a lot of people have been waiting for this for a little bit for a little while now. It was supposed to be out about a week ago. I delayed it because of the Elfelt buffs and because of the Sol buffs. Reason being, we'll get into it, but long story short, there was like a lot of controversy about whether or not she was going to be good, and I wanted to make sure that we got a chance to put her in the right spot because if I didn't, I would have to answer questions about it for the next 3 months. So we're gonna keep that in mind as we go through this. Again, I do have 3 stars on this list. Not every 3 stars on the list, only the relevant ones, primarily the specialty changes. I'm gonna show you guys the whole list. The ranks, the question mark rank, the D rank, and the C rank, we're not going to go over each individual unit. I'll kind of touch on them as a whole, just to try and save some time. And then we'll go over each individual unit, starting from water, and we'll move our way across on each tier from B all the way up to triple S. And finally, there will be a hard copy of this posted in my Discord if you want to check it out, but I won't be posting it for a week. That way, if you, well, my hope is anyway, that people will actually watch the video. And if they have questions about a certain unit, they'll watch. At the very least, if you don't want to watch the whole thing, I totally understand. It's a long video. But at least you watch the segment on what I say about that unit instead of just being like, oh, they have them at X and ask me questions about it. So it's going to hopefully help save me some time in terms of repeatedly answering the same question over and over. But yes, that will be in the resource section of the Discord at some point next week. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And let's just jump right into it. All right. So starting right at the bottom down here, we have Kwana. So Kwana is in the question mark category because there's only a few people that even have her so far. And most people I don't even think have her built. So until we get a better reach on her, we can't put her in the tier list. As promised, the C and D ranks we're going to just briefly touch on. Some of these units can be used in Wyvern on the water side. They're just probably not best in slot. All actually, probably you could use all of them if you really wanted to. Just not best in slot. The fire units don't really have much of a use, except for maybe early game or if you're really desperate to farm Golem, which I don't recommend. And like Tierra, good early game. Leo, never good. But primarily, none of these units actually have a spot in the current meta, at least not once you are able to farm Wyvern 13, which, if you aren't able to farm Wyvern 13 yet, a lot of these units, just hold on to them for now. This list doesn't really apply to you. But you can kind of use it as a judge as to what are the better units in the game if you aren't able to do Wyvern 13 yet. And then from there, once you're able to do it, this list will kind of help push you in the right direction in terms of what units are most important. Again, this is not only PvP, but it does lean heavily toward PvP, and I'll try and go over why each individual unit is in their specific spots as we move along. All right, so we're going to start with water. Bottom left-hand corner, in the B ranks, first up is Flan. So Flan falls all the way down to B because she doesn't really have much of a use. I badly want to put her at C, but to be completely honest, she's super cute, and so she gets a rank bump just because of that. I don't know what else I can say about her. She really has no place in the current meta. You can force use her in Cleaves, but that's really about it. Kreen is up next. She is great Wyvern unit. I see her a lot in one-shot teams for PvP. Sorry, for PvE. She can be used in PvP if you have crazy gear on her, but probably not recommended, probably not best in slot, so she drops down to a B. Furious is another good Wyvern unit, but when you can use Terranor Guard and skill up the Terranor Guard for free and they fill the same role, I don't really know why you would use Furious, but if you like his design or whatever, you can use him for that, so that's why he gets a B rank. Lulu is in a similar spot. I do actually think she could be used in PvP. She could be used in RTA, as she does have a defense buff and a shield. But with all the strips and buff blocks out there, she doesn't really have that much of a spot either, and is primarily a Wyvern unit. The final two in the water section are Dominiel and Spez. Says, sorry, not Spez. Says. Both of them are supposed to be PvP units. They're just not best in slot, so they fall to a B as well. The Reflect is very unique from the Dominiel, but I just don't see her being used all that often, and so she's going to stay at B. Moving over. We're going to go to the fire units. First up on the fire side of the B rank, we have Shuri. So Shuri is you could argue he's the best speed imprint in the game. He is one of the best speed imprints in the game. He's got 14 speed imprint. He does have an AoE. He boosts. He is spectacular, especially early game in PvE. Can also be used in Abyss. You don't see him all that much in RTA, but when you do use him, he's very scary because you're probably not going to outspeed the team, and he can actually do a decent amount of damage if your Oxlot's boosting him. Up next, we have Fire Euphine. And Fire Euphine's an interesting one. You see her very rarely in RTA, but when you do see her, it's specifically to try and counter Basar. Is it worth it? Honestly, probably not. I think there's way better options out there. Some people still use her. We did see her a little bit in the Zenkai Cup, but not all that much. There's just better options out there. So she drops to B rank. Also, the one place that I do find her scary if you are trying to use her in PvP is with Lilius. So a lot of people will run a super high attack Euphine that also gets the greater attack buff, and then a crit damage Lilius to try and get the big damage from the Lilius. But again, Euphine doesn't really have much in terms of PvE usage either, so it's kind of tricky. Up next, we have Carrot. The Carrot specialty change was decent. She can be okay. She can be used. Do I recommend it? No. But if you want to build her and you like her design or whatnot, she's definitely usable in PvE and to a lesser extent PvP. She's not great, but she can do the job if you need her to. Then we have Hazel. Hazel's a really good fire healer if you run a lot of fire units. The problem is if you're not running fire units, then you're probably not going to use her. In PvE, that's great. In PvP, however, you're probably not going to use her because you're probably not running all fire units. Up next, we have Saul. And Saul, I think, is the first person that we've come across so far today that's actually moved up or down on the list from last month. So Saul moved up one rank from C rank to B rank. I'm sure some people are going to be happy about that because he's one of the few units that I always get bugged about, and people say he should be higher. He just got a buff. It's not a very good one, though. He doesn't seem to do a lot of damage and hasn't really been getting any play since his buff. We'll have to see. Maybe in the coming months he'll move up this list a little bit, but I don't think that buff was overly impactful. And I doubt anybody's going to skill him up, so he's going to stay at B rank at least for the time being. Moving over to the wind units. Wind units, we're going to lead off with Rin. Rin, fantastic in PvE again. I have seen her a little bit in PvP. So there's a couple players in Legend RTA that do try and use Rin. I think it's more for fun than anything else. She had an interesting kit. I'm not a big fan of hers personally, but if you want to build her, she does have some usage if you like her design and her kit. She's not really particularly for me, so I'm not going to end up building her, but it makes it kind of tricky for me to give you a great opinion on her, just because I don't really use her all that often. But I can tell you that if she's built tanky, she can be really annoying to deal with, particularly the ones I've seen have been on counter, so hopefully that helps you out. Up next, we have Green Lots. So Green Lots is essentially Oxlots, but just not as good. So that's why he drops down this list. He's got a heal, which is nice, but he has a great boost. But he just doesn't. I don't know where you would use him over a different unit. So he drops down to B. Up next is Leo. Oh, I should be. Crap. I've been meaning to use my mouse here to show you guys what unit we're on. And I was not moving it. I apologize. Up next is Leo. So Leo is used in one-shot teams sometimes, like one-shot Banshee, one-shot Azumanic. But that's really it. So if you're building them, that's the only reason you're building them. You're not building them for PvP. Keep that in mind. But he can be helpful in one-shot teams. Next up, we have Ludwig. Ludwig, solid damage dealer. He can hit really, really hard. I know a lot of you. I know Ludwig kind of got popular because of YDCB, but let's be realistic here. If you're building a AoE nuker, there's better units to put that gear on. So he could be good, kind of similar to Says, in that yes, he can do a crap ton of damage, but he's just not best at his job. And if you have gear good enough to make him work, you've probably got that gear on somebody else. And if you don't, you probably should. So that's why he falls to B rank. Next, we have Silk, and Silk is an interesting one. She, especially with the emergence of Landy and a whole bunch of speed buffs recently, I find Silk really interesting. She has a speed buff and a slow, and nobody's really used her since like 2018. But I think she could potentially be better than people think she is. It's just nobody's using her anymore because it's been so long. I've been tempted to build her for RTA just for fun. I just haven't gotten around to it, and kind of not getting around to it is kind of the reason why she falls this far. Do you really want to invest molas into somebody like that you're like, yeah, she's good, but I don't really need her. So she falls to B rank. Up next, we have Armin. Armin is a really interesting Guild War unit, great Guild War nature tank. Uh, does her job. You don't see her a lot in anywhere else, really, to be completely honest. So if you're building her, you're building her as a Guild War tank, and that's going to be about it. Then we have Purgus. Currently, Purgus is undergoing a recall. If you didn't know that already, he's undergoing a recall just because they changed his skill description. That is no functional changes, though. So nothing changed, it's just his skill description. If you want to recall him, you can. I had mine built for a couple years ago for arena defense. I still see him somewhat occasionally in RTA as countercleave, but that's going to be about it. Up next to the dark units, let me move this a little bit. All right, so the dark units on the far right. First up, we have Mercedes, and she falls to a B. She's fantastic in arena offense with Basar and Blue Tyrant, and that's it. It's her one and only spot. You won't use her anywhere else. You won't see her anywhere else. I don't know what else to say. She's best in slot for that team because you can run her on Rage. She's really good. She does a ton of damage if there's defense breaks, but she's a little bit difficult to use outside of that. Next on the list, we have Fat Cat. So, Assassin Cartusia, evasion unit. I'm not a fan of evasion. Evasion drives me crazy. I wish it wasn't in the game, but it is, and he can be used to annoy people. You used to see him a lot on arena defense. You don't really anymore. People just kind of cleave through him and hope it kills. Again, he can be used counter cleave. He can be a little bit annoying. In the end, he's probably not going to win you any fights, but every once in a while you could use him and you would get lucky. So if you're really stuck and you have no chance to win and you bring him, you'll at least have a chance. That's where we're going to leave him. Up next, we have our first two ML5s on the list in Dark Corvus and ML Ken. So ML Ken actually moved up one slot from C rank up to B rank. Reason being, he's getting a little bit more play recently with a lot of AoEs out there. He's still in a really bad spot, but he is getting some play. I heard some people using him in Guild War Guild War offense as well, against certain teams. And kind of similar to Dark Corvus. Dark Corvus took a big hit with the frenzy changes. He went from bad to worse. I probably should have considered dropping him down, but at this point, and we may as well just leave them there and wait for their buffs. They're definitely the two worst ML5s and the two most in need of a buff, as they're just both very easy to kill and really don't bring anything offensively. You can just wait, kill them last. They're not going to do anything in the meantime. Very easy to counter, and so many units that kill them that they're just not relevant anymore. All right, moving back over to the left-hand side, back with water and the A ranks now. We're going to start off with Chloe. Chloe, great water damage dealer. She's got a defense break, a strip. She could potentially be used in PvP if you build her well enough. I know a lot of people don't want to invest the molas into her, but she can also be used in Wyvern. You can tell units in this tier more use cases. They're not necessarily best in slot, but unlike the units in the B tier, they have more uses and can be used in multiple places. So that is it for Chloe. Blue Tywin, AoE defense break with attack buff and boost. Again, one of the best. If you're going to try and defense break in Arena, he's best in slot. I'm sure Elfelt would have something to say about that, but I still think Tywin would be better in that. As one, he's water, and two, he has the boost to help synergize. So yes, he only attack buffs one person, but really you only need to attack buff one person, and getting that next unit a turn is really important. So that is why he falls in at A rank. Up next is Elena. Now Elena is a little different for the A rank in that she is kind of best in slot against certain teams, but she's only good at that. So again, a lot of people try and bring her in against Flitica. If it's Flitica CDOM, it's not going to work at high levels because the CDOM is going to be speed tuned to go first anyway. You don't see a lot of Elena, but you do see her a little bit more, especially now that she got a cute new skin. I am not the biggest fan of hers because I don't really see her working all that often. But that being said, she is also really good in RTA against Rosecleaves. Kind of a must man in that situation where they need multiple AoEs to kill you. So keep her in mind. She is a decent option in RTA in very specific niche spots. Up next, we have Angelica. So Angelica is kind of a controversial one in that late game players don't really use her anymore. I do think she could be good in certain situations. Just heals in general are in kind of a bad spot. But she's so good early game and so vital early game that she gets to maintain her rank at A. Just because she is so important in so many situations in every aspect of the game early on. The later you are in game, the further she drops. But we're going to keep her at A rank just because she's so useful early. Up next, Yuna. Yuna with a speed buff and attack buff. We talked about speed buff earlier and how strong it is. She's very good for that reason. She can also be good with units like Raz who team up with the S1 because she does have an AoE skill 1. It can be very scary. So keep her in mind. She's mainly a PvP unit. You probably only see her in RTA, but she can be good. Next up, we have Luna. And my Luna had been benched for eternity, but now with expeditions being so important, you're probably using her in your fire. What's it called? Ferris expedition. So she is good there. She could potentially be used in Wyvern. She still can do big damage if she max hits on her S1. The problem is it's so RNG that despite the fact that she got an exclusive, she's still not really great. But she has a lot of uses, and also with no debuffs on her S1, she can be very good in Abyss as well for those floors where you're not allowed to debuff. So for that reason, she is A. Next, we have Roman. Roman, very underrated. I don't use him personally, but he is underrated. He's a great strip, and with strips being so important, he is up in that A rank, and there's not really much else to say about it. The only problem with him is that he's not element neutral, so it does make him a little harder to use. But other than that, he's still a very solid unit if you're looking for a 4-star to build. Moving on to the fire units, we're going to lead off with Melissa. Melissa, I know a lot of people use her to counter Violet. Early game and mid game, that's great. Or if your Oxlot's boosting for Guild War, that's great. For things like RTA, it's not going to work because either She's not going to be able to kill because she's not because she doesn't do enough damage, or she's not going to be fast enough. So against tanky Rylets, I'm sure she'd be fine. But against squishy Rylets, she's just going to get outsped, and Rylet is just going to nuke her. So you kind of have to be a little bit careful with her. She's not really viable in RTA, but she is good in Guild War if you're using her in Guild War. And she's a super fun unit as well. So consider building her if you want a Fire Guild War damage dealer. Next on the list, speaking of Fire Guild War damage dealers, we have Sirmia. She can also be used in other PvE content. She's not really for PvP other than for Guild War. You do see her occasionally in RTA in like double lots teams, but not all that often. She's a fun unit. She does big damage with her S3. You see the occasional counter meme build in RTA, but not really an overly important unit, and that's why she doesn't break into the S ranks. Next up, we have Litica. So Fire Litica, very interesting unit, crazy strong base speed, which is primarily the reason why she gets this rank. Very good for people that talk about how they can't stop cleaves because they can't outspeed them. Units like Litica, that's why they're there. They have really good base speed. You throw your fastest gear on them, she can outspeed the enemy Oxlots or whatever they're trying to cleave you with and lock them down. That's her sole purpose. She can also be good in RTA or in PvE as well. She's great in Abyss. I think a lot of people also used her in like the Ranger, like kill the queen with all Rangers. I think it was. She can be very good in that Dagger Cesar mission as well. Other than that, she's not spectacular. She just has one job and she does it very well. Next, we have cern. Fire cern, very underrated unit. I know a lot of you guys have seen me cleave with her. She can actually do pretty good damage with her skill 3 and her skill 2. And she also can burn into an extra turn. Plus, she has a 14 speed imprint, tying her with Shuri. I've used her to get my Oxlot to turn in RTA and double kill units like Arby, or kill 2 fast units like, for example, Assassin Sid and C-Dom or something like that. But yeah, very scary unit. She's very, very good. So keep her in mind if you're looking for a speed imprint, as I think she's probably the best speed imprint in the game. Next, we have Fire Maya. Now, Fire Maya, I debated moving down because people were building her when she got her buff, and I haven't really seen or heard from her since. I'm going to leave her where she is because I know some people do still like her, but I don't think she's really worth the investment. You could use her in Guild War, I'm sure, as a fire tank, but there's just so many options I don't know why you would do it, especially when molas are somewhat tight. Up next, we have Kana. So Kana is the new fire unit. She is kind of interesting. She has a S1 that hits 2 units, kind of like Spectre Tenebria. She also has a speed buff. She's decent. She could be used in the Wind Expedition, which I'm sure is what she's there for, because there weren't a lot of units for the Wind Expedition. She's also free. She's an what do you call it? The little thing in the left-hand side there. She's a free unit anyway. You can just do some tasks and get her for free. I got mine already. She can do decent damage. She's not bad. I just don't see her being used really anywhere other than the Wind Expedition. I'm sure you could force use her, but outside of that, I just don't see it. But she's a fun unit. She may not be this high next month or next tier list once we've had some time to play around with her. But you never know. Maybe people find some interesting use cases for her. And we'll see what happens. She also actually could be good against stealth units, right? I should mention that, because her S1 hits 2 units, could be good against units that go into stealth. There aren't a lot of wind units that go into stealth, which is where you would probably see her primarily. But if you can maybe bait a dark stealth unit like an Assassin Collie or something, then she could help take that unit out. She could help take out the Collie as long as the Collie has somebody else to attack into. And finally, for the A tier, we have Elfelt. So Elpha just got a buff. She moved up 2 ranks on this list. She was C rank, and her buff, I moved her up to A rank. If you haven't seen the video already and you want more of an explanation on why I put her here, I did put out a whole video on her with like 5 different fights with multiple people trying to use her. The problem is with her, her kit looks really good. People were super hyped because she's the only unit in the game that provides AoE attack buff and AoE defense break, and she does it in the same skill, which is really nice. Unfortunately, the problem with her is that she does no damage. She can't kill anybody, or she's too slow. So you could use her in Guild War, theoretically, but if the Guild War defense has immunity, then you don't get the defense break. And if you bring the strip, it won't work. In RTA, she's completely unusable. Think of I forced her in RTA, and you can make it work. The problem in RTA, I'm going to be a little bit harsh on her, just because I'm sure people think she should be higher. So, in order to justify moving her to here, I'm going to be a little harsh on her. I do think she deserves the A rank. I don't think she should be lower, but I'm trying to give the reasons why she's not higher, just to be clear. For RTA, think of units like Tamizarian or Basar Tywin. The reason they don't work is because they're pairing, and pairings just don't work in RTA. Because one of them gets banned and you're stuck with the other one. So Elfel is very similar. You need to bring a strip, you need to bring a mage so that she can burn, because if she misses her strip or her sleep or her defense break, then you just lose. Plus the fact that she probably isn't going to be built with all that much effectiveness. So she really has no place in RTA. The only place where she really might have a place is Arena. And then at that point, why are you not running Tywin? ML Tywin has the synergy with the unit that is going after. So if you're trying to use a unit like Mercedes, who we talked about earlier, like it just won't work with her because she's never going to get a turn. She's going to get cut. You still need to bring a strip first, and then she can go in defense break. It's going to be really tricky to use her. It'll be interesting to see if this weekend when Arena Rush happens, if people are trying to use her in Arena. But I feel like that's the one spot. If you have a speed army with basket, that could be Arena offense. You could synergize him to go right after and make the whole team like over 250 speed and be able to kill that way. I'm sure that would work. But other than that, I really don't see much of a use for her. So that's why she isn't higher on the list. And I'm sure I'm going to hear about it, but she just doesn't deserve to be higher. She doesn't do enough damage. Her damage is really weak. If you watch that video, I think it was my most recent video. She, on a speed build, which is her, for RTA would be her best use, would be a speed build. Otherwise, she's just going to die. She failed to kill a Vivian that had no shield. She stripped the Vivian, defense broke, and didn't do enough damage to kill. Another version, Zodi's, came into my Ray, defense broke my Ray, who only has 11k HP, couldn't kill my Ray. I heard somebody else couldn't kill Watcher Shuri with her after outspeeding. Her damage is really, really weak, even when max Moled, and I just don't know if she's even worth building, to be completely honest. But if you like her kit, go for it. Just fair warning. All right, we spent a lot of time on her. We got to move on. Over to the wind units, we have Moy. Now, Moy is a great strip. She's not element neutral, which makes her a little trickier to use. You could run some sort of anti-evasion artifact on her to help her out. But she can be very annoying. I see her sometimes on arena defense because she could RNG into a win, as she can sometimes proc an extra turn, and that could be debilitating. It's just not reliable, so you wouldn't want to use it in something like RTA. But for arena defense, she could be an option. Up next, we have Biken, who's currently part of the Guilty Gear collab we have going on. Biken, great one-shot unit for Banshee, and that's about it. You probably won't see her anywhere else. But if you're trying to build a one-shot Banshee team, she's your go-to. Next, we have Rowana. Rowana was supposed to be the SSB counter. To some degree, she can be if you have a very low damage, tanky SSB. then Rowana can help if she's paired with like a Tywin or a unit that gives immunity that's going to stop. The problem being that SSB provides buff block, heal block, so if she gets a turn, and she buff blocks heal blocks you, your Rowana is all of a sudden useless. So I don't think Rowana is necessarily the best counter because similar to Elfelt, she needs people with her in order to work, even just to do her job. So kind of scary in that regard. Um, and also damage SSBs just destroy her anyway. So keep that in mind with her. She is an SSB counter, but that's really her only job. You probably won't see her anywhere else. You do see her, in arena defense to counter SSB as well, not only RTA. Next, we have Wind Bellina. Wind Bellina, great unit. You see her a lot in Abyss, and you saw her a lot early game. She's kind of fallen off. I do think she could be scary in RTA if you were willing to devote the molas and the gear. I just don't think people are going to be willing to do that, especially with SSB around. Maybe with the new anti-focus unit coming out, we might see a resurgence of some of these AoE units, but I somehow doubt it. Again, similar to units like Rowana and Elfelt, you just need to draft too many things then, because they could just ban the anti-focus unit, and then all of a sudden you're stuck with AoEs into SSB. Next up, we have Pavel. I almost forgot his name. Pavel's up next. Great speed unit. There's just better options out there. There's so many better options out there. He's good. He can do big damage. He can be great in cleaves. He should maybe be higher, but he's not meta right now. He does his job really well. I have no complaints about him. And he's got really good base speed, but he's just not meta. The meta is very bruiserish right now, and he's very squishy. So you don't see a lot of him. That doesn't mean he's not good though. He can be really scary, and if you want to build him, I would say go for it because I think anytime you see a Pavel in RTA, especially, he gets banned because they know that Pavel is going to do something crazy because you know that person invested in them if they're using him. Next up, we have Green Violet. So Green Violet's another one that kind of fell off, mainly because Rylet came out. And with Rylet coming out, a lot of people fed their Green Violets into Rylet. So that's the main reason we don't see him anymore. But he can still be really scary if you wanted to use him. Another evasion unit that can cheese you a win here and there. I don't necessarily think he's the best, but he can do his job if you need a Nature Bruiser. Speaking of Nature Bruisers, we have Irvelin. Irvelin was supposed to be a bruiser and a counter tank unit, but his kit is just terrible. It looks like it could be good, but he doesn't function the way you think he does. He needs a major buff. On top of the fact that he's not great, think of units like, you know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of Ball and Sazon, Fireball and Sazon. An okay kit. Actually, Fireball is an amazing kit, but he looks terrible, so nobody wants to build him. I feel like that's how people feel about Irvelin as well, except I think his kit's a lot worse. So that's why he falls to A rank. Next, we have Ruzid. Ruzid, great booster. He's got a speed imprint. He is what he is. You know what he does. He's reliable. There's not much to say about him, really. He does his job. He's not going to make it any higher up the list because he's not like that role isn't in high demand, and obviously units like Oxlots would just do it better. But he is still very good at what he does. Moving on, we have Shuri. So Shuri, another great speed imprint. Now, when compared to cern, they're very different. His speed imprint is 4 less speed, which can be huge because if you're trying to outspeed somebody, you're now 4 speed slower than you could have been by not bringing cern. But he doesn't need to burn, one, and he has one-shot damage on everybody, not just squishy targets. Whereas somebody like cern is only going to be able to one-shot a squishy target unless she burns. So Shuri, if built right, can one-shot any unit in the game. So 100% ignore defense, really, really strong. Plus the speed imprint, plus he can hold sachet to help keep your team cycling and get you your turns that you need and make sure you don't get cut. So for that reason, he's very good. He's just not overly meta right now. It's not really a speed contest meta right now. Moving on, we have Purgus. Actually, wait. Purgus is supposed to be higher on this list. I don't want to spoil anything here. I meant to move him up, and I made a mistake. So we'll come back to him. My bad. Let's move her into that spot. All right. So next up, Geither. Geither is it's an interesting unit. She's very good. She hits very hard. She's got a heal. She's got an attack buff. She can be used in cleaves, but not really in RTA unless you were to retune everything. More of a arena offense type unit. I know a lot of people just don't want to build Geither, so kind of suffers from the Irvelin Ball and Cezanne syndrome. In that people don't want to build the unit. So, but for that reason, she gets looked over quite a bit. But I think she's actually very underrated. I used to use her in my arena offense a lot, as she can hold. She's the only unit in the game that can hold book, nuke somebody, and AOE attack buff all at the same time. She's kind of what people were hoping Alpha would be, in a different way. Alpha can't hold book, but can defense break, and Geither can hold book, but can't defense break. Next up, we have Fighter Maya. So Fighter Maya is a fan favorite. You see her all over the place in terms of people's favorite units, but then she doesn't get much use. So she gets some use in Guild War, as she's a great light tank with all the hard-hitting dark damage dealers out there. But outside of that, you don't really see her all that often. She's not doesn't get much play in RTA. She can be very scary in RTA. It's not to say she's not good. In the right situation, and in a fight that goes late in frenzy, she scales really, really well and can do huge damage. The problem is getting her there and getting her to a position where she can actually do her job. She's also very reliant on getting free turns, whether it be from counter or from Albris. Because if she doesn't get those free turns, you need the RNG to win. So if you have good RNG, maybe consider building her. If you have bad RNG, she won't do you any good. Next up, we have Wanderer Silk. Wanderer Silk is very similar to Fire Litica in that crazy good base speed. She has one purpose. It's to outspeed, lock down a unit that is normally quick, and prevent them from taking first turn. She can also be used in PvE as well. Same as Fire Litica. Great at her job. You just don't see her all that often because she's not overly meta right now. Next, we have Bingo. Bingo, another interesting unit. He's a Soul Weaver, but he also has really good nuke power plus invincibility. Again, I feel like he would be higher if it was more of like a cleave meta, but it's not really a squishy unit meta right now. So that's why we have Bingo down here A tier. And finally, we get to move over to the dark units. I feel like these dark units, when I look at them, are technically a tier above the other A units that we've seen. But there's so many good dark units that I had to put them somewhere. So they kind of suffer from success in terms of dark units. There's just so many good dark units that somebody had to be A tier. So first up, we have Assassin Sid. One of the best openers, especially now with I-90 gear. He actually gets a bit of a boost with I-90 gear. Because before, when he wouldn't have been able to kill something, those super fast damage dealers like him and Assassin Collie, I feel like I-90 gear helped them most. Because before, if you had a 20 speed damage dealer piece, say you had crit damage, or maybe crit damage is a bad example because I know a lot of people run theirs on crit rate, but whatever you have, say it's an attack ring. You have an attack ring that has 20 speed on it. You want to put it on your Sid or on your Assassin Collie, but it didn't have a crit damage sub and it didn't have a crit rate sub, or it had crit rate but didn't have crit damage, or vice versa. Now you can get both, so you're able to grind those empty stats because you happen to with gear that's like, say, speed, crit rate, crit damage. It's kind of easy to get like those average rolls across the board. You get like 10 speed, 10 crit rate, 10 crit damage. I feel like you have a lot of those. But when you have to rely on having 20 speed in order to make the unit, a lot of times, once you get the 20 speed, you just can't be picky about the other substats because that's the only 20 speed piece you have available. So now with I-90 gear, being able to fill the gaps on those 20 speed pieces makes it a lot easier to gear them in terms of them doing enough damage to kill. So I do feel like they got a bit of a buff, both of them. And although they don't have speed imprints, they can both be very scary. Next, we have Rin. Rin falls in the same category as Wander Silk and as Firelitica in that she has insane base speed. She's there to take first turn, put up immunity, and potentially shut down a unit. I use her a little differently personally. I use her against Polly, who we'll get to in a minute. But very good unit for going first, putting up immunity, and protecting your team. She can also be good against, before we switch, she can be very good against units like Kayron or units with a lot of buffs, revives and stuff. She can be good against Maid Chloe. She can also be built Bruiser, or she can be built, well, not Bruiser. She can be built Tanky, or she can be built Squishy, and with high effectiveness. There's a whole bunch of builds for her. So, very flexible unit, and although she suffers from the 15% issue in terms of getting resisted, when she works, she's really, really, really strong. It's just in order to go first, take a turn, strip, get another turn and stun. If that's what you're relying on and you need the strip and the stun, you're counting on back-to-back 15% procs going through, and that can be risky. So that's where she kind of suffers a little bit. Next up, we have Shooting Star Katie's. Shooting Star Katie's one of the only revivers in the game. Very good at her job. You could argue she should be higher here, but again, there's so many good dark units that somebody had to take the hit. But I think she's actually got quite a good kit and fantastic in Guild War. Could be used in RTA. Definitely underrated and kind of slept on. Speaking of underrated, we have Kitty Clarissa. Kitty Clarissa is great in this current meta because of all the debuffs. All those strips out there that are stripping, pushing back, and buff blocking you, she's great against them if you can keep her alive. She's probably the easiest unit to get to 250 speed, 250 crit, 250 speed, 250 res. All the other cleansers are much harder to get to those stats. But if that's what you need, she's the unit for you because she is a warrior and you can put her on Strack, which makes the gear requirements much lower. Then we have Shadow Rose. Shadow Rose got a big buff, and a lot of people, myself included, thought she was going to be really, really good. And she just hasn't gotten much play. She's kind of like Flurry in that if you burn into her, she can strip and defense break every single turn. The problem is having enough souls to do it and landing. I had mine at 280 effectiveness, and I was getting 15%ed nonstop. Kind of like Flurry and kind of like Rin. When they have immunity, you have to land the strip without getting resisted, and then you have to land the defense break without getting resisted, which means two different res checks, and it failed way too often, so I stopped using her. If it was only one res check, I feel like she would rock it up and be way higher and a much higher use rate, but the double res check is really annoying. We already talked about Kali. Moving on, we have Singelica. Singelica, great RB counter, great revive counter in general. Other than that, she has a speed buff and attack buff. You don't see her all that often. We saw a little bit of her in the Zhankai Cup, but not too much. She has her place. I use her occasionally in RTA against Arby's if you want that speed buff, attack buff. She is an option. Not much else to say. She doesn't do much else. So she does have a team up with her S1. She's great in Hall of Trials. That's really all there is to say about her. Next up on the list, we have another AoE damage dealer, a small step up from ML Mercedes in BBK. So Bloodbag Korean, great AoE nuker, has the ability to kill RB twice because she does get an extra turn if she kills somebody with her nuke, and she hits really hard. Can also be built on like a bruiser build for RTA if you really want to. A lot of potential there. She's very scary if you do see her. She kind of reminds me of Pavel in that regard. When you see her, you know she's going to be good. But yeah, very interesting unit, and could also be argued that she should be higher on the list as well. All right, finally, we're moving into the S tiers. There, can we get? No, not quite. All right, so S tier. First up, water units. We have Crow. So Blue Crow, he's been S tier forever. He was double S for a little bit. I moved him down, I think, last tier list or the one before. The frenzy changes really hurt him. You don't really see him all that much anymore. He's kind of dead. You do see a lot of people still using him just as a defense buff in high level RTA. But he doesn't really bring much else to the table. He's kind of outclassed by every other defense buffer out there. So, in terms of why he's not higher, that's why. In terms of why he is this high, he's still got single target nuke power if the enemy misplays and drops him down low enough. He can also hold Aureus to help that out. He's also got a defense buff. Defense buff in RTA is one of the most powerful things out there. If you don't have units like Raz, Alencia, and other defense buffers out there, then he is an option. Next up, we have Water Kize. Water Kize is an interesting one. I actually just 6-starred mine. Nobody knows yet, so shh. But she's great unit against Fire Ravi. She's great units against buffs. So if you're trying to bring her into, say, Last Rider Crow or Fire Ravi, she can do huge damage. Also, she gets slept on because she is squishy, and stealth is a somewhat scary mechanic, and that's why Assassin Collie kind of suffers, is because, and she's an A rank, is because of the stealth. She goes into stealth, but there's so many AoEs, it's very easy to take her out of stealth. Kize is a lot harder to take out of stealth. She provides a shield, and the shield's actually quite thick. So, say there's an FCC going after her, the FCC is not going to take her out of stealth. So that shield really can come into play and make a big difference. And even sometimes you'll be able to take a crow hit as well, Last Rider crow hit, and not get taken out of stealth. So, very interesting unit. I'll probably have more videos on her in the future. There is a The Best video, but it's not mine. It's actually Zezin's Kize. So, you can check that video out if you want, if you're looking for more info on her. Next up, we have Rose. So Blue Rose, very scary in cleave comps, in like slower cleave comps in RTA. She does have a lot of counters now, and you don't see it all that often anymore, but there are a group of players that still love their Rose Cleaves, and for that reason, she is S tier. I also can use her in Expedition as well. She's got an attack buff and a boost in the same skill. It's just not a huge boost like Oxlod's, but it boosts the whole team. So keep that in mind. If you're looking for an attack buffer, she's a great option. Up next, we have Monty. Monty, great cleanser. Unfortunately, she only cleanses one buff, so she's primarily a PvE cleanser, and she's really good in that role. You don't see her much in PvP, except for potentially like arena offense or something if you're going into like a Bazaar and you just need to cleanse the Bazaar. But she's potentially the best cleanser in terms of having cleanses non-stop. So for PvE, if you're worried about getting debuffed a lot and you need regular cleanses instead of just one big cleanse, she's a good option. Next up, we have Ida. I put Ida all the way up to S rank, which might be a little high. She might end up coming down a little bit. If people decide to build her, I think she can be really annoying for RTA. We just haven't seen much of her. She does have a strip stun as well as she has a stun as well as strip pushbacks, and she's a mage, so she can either hold book or crown. I think she's kind of scary. It depends on the team, though. I don't know if she's gonna end up being meta or not, but I put her up here just in case. She kind of reminds me of ML Era, and ML Era is at this level as well. So we'll have to see what happens with her. She may end up moving down next tier list, but for now, she's gonna get that early S rank. On to the fire units, we have Fire Ken. Fire Ken, great bruiser. He's always been the meme when you get a gear with a lot of stats that don't necessarily work together. Everyone always says put it on Ken. That still is true. He's got a pretty reliable defense break now. He can actually be quite scary in RTA. You don't see a lot of him. He is fire, and Fire Ravi is usually the go-to bruiser in that regard. So that's why he kind of suffers a little bit, because Ravi is just that tier above him. Um, but he's very good, and he's got defense breaks. So if you want to build Fire Ken, I would say go for it. A lot of people don't like him, and probably would say he's lower, but I think he's underrated. Moving on, we have Fireball. Fireball, we talked about him a little bit earlier in that he kind of suffers from his skin, but his kit is really good. He's got an AoE strip, defense break, heal block, and slow. Um, he also can reset his own cooldown, and his S1 can hit multiple targets. He is best in slot for the Nature Expedition, and also could be good in PvP as well, as he does have an AoE defense break. Um, and he can hit kind of hard as well. So keep in mind, he has a lot of debuffs. I think he's massively underrated. Um, as I'm sure most people would have him lower on their tier list, but his kit is so good. If you didn't know that, I would recommend going and looking at his kit because it's actually kind of crazy. Next, we have Tamarin. Tamarin is the best PvE healer in the game. You don't see her a lot in PvP anymore. She used to be the Tamizaria go-to arena offense. You don't really see that much anymore, but she's still the best PvE healer in the game, and that's why she gets her S rank. Not really usable in RTA because, as we mentioned earlier, she's one of those units that needs pairings, but that's not her role. She is Hall of Trials Queen. She's Abyss. She is what else? Raid as well. She's all over the place in PVE. So she maintains her rank here. She isn't higher just because she doesn't really get any PvP use. The nice thing is she doesn't need much investment. I think mine still only has like one skill up, um, and she does her job. Speaking of cleansers, we have Acades. So Acades is one of the best cleansers out there right now. There's as it's very important right now to have a high res cleanser. One of the most needed roles in this current meta for especially for RTA is to have a cleanser because there's so many strips that have buff block that if you get strip buff blocked, you're pretty much dead. And Acades can cleanse every other turn. So we talked about Monty having a very regular cleanse. So does Acades. It's not quite as regular as Monty's, but her cleanse is all debuffs. So if you want to sacrifice being able to cleanse a little bit less for uh, being able to cleanse more debuffs, then Acades would be your go-to. Also, the invincibility does help keep her alive, and obviously helping her cycle. Um, her downfall is that when she cleanses, she doesn't put up immunity, and there are a couple of really good cleansers we're going to get to in a minute that do both. So you can still get debuffed right after she cleanses, which can make it kind of annoying. But the fact that she cleanses regularly kind of makes up for it. Up next, we have Polly. So Polly is all over the place right now on arena defense. I don't really understand why. They're trying to prevent Oxlot's cleaves, I guess, to slow people down. It doesn't necessarily prevent Oxlot's cleaves, though. Like, I've still been cleaving my arena. I've just been running my Rin ahead of my Oxlots. And because she's there, it makes it very easy to cleave because there's actually a squishy unit there to take care of. So she almost enables cleave more in a strange way because you can just go Rin, Oxlots, and Judge Kize or whoever you want to cleave with. But people keep running her, and for that reason, she's going to move up to S rank. As she has been getting a little bit more play, there's other units that she's good against, like she's good against Flurry, she's good against CDOM, stuff like that. But she, as long as you're used to facing her, she's a pretty easy workaround. So I can't justify moving her higher, but she does deserve her S rank because she is used in all over the place in arena defense right now. The final fire unit for the S tier is going to be Cowrick. Now, Cowrick is an interesting one. He is. It's funny because I was going to build him, and then when the announcements of the Elfelt buffs came out, I switched to Elfelt, and then I tested Elfelt, and I think Cowrick's just better. So they're kind of similar in a different way in that he does have a stripped silence, so and you can burn into it, and he's a mage, so you can guaranteed strip silence, which is very good against high res targets, like for example your cleansers, um, which is what people were doing with Elfelt as well. But Elfelt The problem with Elfeld is she strips and sleeps, which is great, but then she's not going to get the kill. And when she goes with her second turn, she's going to wake that slept unit up, and they're going to get a turn. Um, as I was talking about with my Ray, in the video I put out recently, somebody, I think it was Zodi, tried to kill my Ray. She slept him, but then because he was trying to kill Ray, it woke him up, and then he just cleansed, and the fight was over, and he had to quit. Whereas at least with Cowrick, you would get the silence in that situation. You're not going to kill most likely, but at least he's silenced and he can't cleanse. And it's still guaranteed because he can burn into it. And he holds his own book instead of needing to bring another unit, so he can be self sufficient, which is for RTA much more important, which is why I move him up a rank, is just because he's self sufficient and can do it by himself. He also does a lot more damage than Elfelt does, so keep that in mind. He's just less of a team player, but that's why he isn't higher on the list, is because he is kind of a selfish unit. He doesn't help the rest of the team, but he's still very good. Moving on to the wind units, we have Vildred. So Vildred, another great speed imprint. I have him higher on the list than the other two speed imprints we've talked about because he is AoE damage and he boosts himself with every time somebody dies, so he can cut very easily. He's also good in things like Asmanic and any cleave team as well. So very strong unit. Everybody knows what he does by now. One of the best early summons in the game is he can also be a farmer. Vildred is Vildred, so very good. Next, another speed imprint in Assassin Sid. So I've actually got Assassin Sid ahead of a couple of other speed imprints in Ruzid and Shuri and cern. Reason being is that he can defense break. Um, he's still 10 speed imprint, so he doesn't outspeed a lot of imprints, but he's got one of the better speed imprints in the game, plus his defense break and huge damage. You really can't frown on him. I think he's very good. Next, I have Lilibet. Lilibet is probably one of the units that's going to suffer a lot from her recent ML release. I know I fed mine. Um, she's crazy good though. She's still the most reliable RB killer out there for Guild War RTA and Arena. You don't see her a lot in RTA, although I think she could be very good there. I think you could also build her on a bruiser build if you wanted to, and she could be just all around good in that regard. But she is going to suffer a little bit. You're not going to see her as much anymore because a lot of people have used her as imprints for their Lilibet, for their ML Lilibet. But she's still very good, especially if you have a hard time with RB. The built-in, again, before we leave her. The built-in anti-evasion on her is really, really nice. And she could even be a Rylet killer as well if you wanted. Next, we have Celine. Celine I debated dropping, and I haven't dropped her yet because I'm convinced she could be better than she is on this list. She's just so easy to work around. She can be a good last pick in RTA against Cleaves. I think she could be a decent bruiser though. If people built her on bruiser gear, I think she could be better. I just don't think a lot of people have, and just have her squishy. And so I'm gonna give her one more tier list before we drop her down, because I think she's got some untapped potential. So she's still relatively new. For that reason, we're gonna keep her here. But like I said, she may move down in the future. Moving on, we have another cleanser. You can notice that as we move up the tier list, these cleanses are getting prioritized. We have Destina. So Destina, potentially the best pure healer in the game. She does have a cleanse. Her heals are very strong. She has a big heal on her skill 3, big heal on her skill 2, single target, and a heal on her skill 1. So she has heals on all 3 skills. She's got an AoE cleanse. The AoE cleanse is really, really good in this meta because if a unit like Basar goes, pushes everybody back, when there's debuffs on the units, she boosts them. Plus, she has a boost with her skill 2, and you can also use the exclusive that if you don't want to reduce her cooldown with the exclusive, you can have a chance to automatically reset the cooldown to be ready on her skill 2. And her skill 2 can be really strong as a 50% CR boost. I think she's really, really strong in this meta. Again, she has the same problem as Katie's, though, in that she doesn't provide immunity when she cleanses. So you can build her high res. She'll do her job on turn 1. But keep in mind, she's pretty slow base speed and she doesn't provide immunity. So those are her two downfalls. But in terms of healing, if it's like a so for me, I use her and Ray regularly. I run her on debuff teams that do more damage. So if there's an RB there, maybe I'll bring her because I know I'm gonna have to heal a little bit more than I would if it's just pure crowd control, as she has the bigger heal. Let's actually talk about. We're gonna skip Mort. We're gonna come back to him. Um, we're gonna do Ray first. So the reasons for Ray are very similar as for Destina, except he's gonna be a little squishier, and his heals are gonna be a little less. So he doesn't heal as much, but his cleanse doesn't boost. But when he does cleanse, he provides AOE immunity, and against a lot of these teams, you can put him on Water's Origin. He can cut, cleanse, put up immunity, and the fight's over. Sometimes that's all you need is just somebody to put up immunity again, and they can't do anything. So in that role, they're very, very similar. I put them at the same rank because they kind of do the same thing, just a little bit differently. Like I said, Destina better for the bigger heals, Ray better for the cleanse and immunity, and that's kind of where I stand on them. I think they are two of the most important units in the game right now in terms of dealing with some of the triple S units that we're going to get to later. All right, coming back to Mort. Mort is interesting. There aren't a lot of nature bruisers out there, but I think he's underrated. Whenever I use him, he seems to win. I think he's very good against even in the current meta against the stuns. The thing is his injury doesn't do much. He can do decent damage though with his skill 2 with his skill 3, and his S1 has a defense break. Plus can Elbrus proc and potentially put up anti crit at any given time, which is very scary. Um, I've definitely lost to some Morts, and I feel like whenever I bring him, I win. He's just not good everywhere. He's very niche, and for that reason, he doesn't isn't higher. But I still think he's a decent bruiser, and I think he's underrated. So we're gonna leave him at S rank for now. Moving on to the light units. Again, this is still S rank. We start with Silverblade Era. So Silverblade Era, AoE stun. You guys all know what she does. Um, she's not higher because she's a very squishy unit, and a lot of the meta right now, you don't need another stun. A lot of the strips do all the debuffing you need, so you don't really need debuffs to go after the strips. So that's why she's not higher, but she's still very scary. If she gets her stun off and starts cycling, you're probably dead. Um, Particularly if they don't have units like Ray, Destina, Katie's in their team. So keep her in mind if you're looking for an AoE stun. She can also be very good in Raid as well. But yeah, that's ML Era. Up next, we have Roman. So ML Roman, great strip. He's a little more RNG than some of them, and that's why you don't see them him as much anymore. Also, his base speed's a little bit slower than a lot of the other strips out there. And he doesn't have buff block. So although he can win a fight single-handedly, he can also lose it single-handedly because he's a little more RNG than the other strips. So keep that in mind. High risk, high reward. Next, we have Ciarman. Ciarman, I think I moved her up the list one. I think she was one lower. But very, very interesting unit. She did just get a buff, so she's now she I don't even know how to word it. She reduces incoming damage whether it's crit damage or not. So she's the only unit in the game that does that. Which means she can reduce fixed damage. With units like Last Rider Crown and ML Haste doing and Blue Crowd to a lesser extent doing fixed damage, she can reduce that damage as well. Is that going to give her a role? I'm not sure. She does have AoE immunity and invincibility, which means just for that alone, she's very good. But we'll have to see how she functions in terms of dealing with this fixed damage. But she is unique, and for that reason, she moves up to S rank. As she's, excuse me, the only unit in the game that can do that. Next, we have Ruel. And Ruel has really suffered recently. She used to be triple S, and then we dropped her to double S, and now she's dropped down to single S. She's almost becoming obsolete. You could almost argue that she should even be down a tier further. She does get some play in RTA, and that's about it. Um, she's definitely the third best reviver in the game now. Still slightly ahead of Shooting Star Katie's, but her revive is really good. The problem is once she does her revive, she just gets overwhelmed. Um, a lot of the damage now is AoE, and she can't keep up with AoE damage. So for that reason, she drops down to S rank. Then we have another speed imprint, this time in the form of Mursa. She has high evasion. She is the 3-star version of Rylet. You don't see her a lot except for anti-cleave. People will bring her in as she has a chance to potentially evade and win the fight for you. But she's still very scary. She can do huge damage. I've actually one-shot a Ruel with her once she gets her skill 3 with speed buff, attack buff, and you can burn into it. She definitely has the potential to solo fights and can be very good. So she's definitely worth building. And she can skill up for free because she's a 3-star. So keep her in mind. Then we have General Purchase. We moved General Purchase up during this list. I meant to move him up before, but we moved him up to S rank. He used to only be a Wyvern unit. The reason I moved him up is because he's getting a lot of play right now in RTA. People are picking him all over the place. You might even argue that he should be higher. You could argue that he should be double S on this list, just because of how much he's getting used. The fact that, and all they did was change his damage to HP based damage. So he's now a hard hitting bruiser that also can make a lot of teams really difficult to deal with. If you're trying to run AoEs into him, the enemy's just getting so many turns because his boost is so big. So now on top of Wyvern, he's got multiple uses. He definitely moves up to S. I'm going to have to give it some thought as to whether or not I think in the next list he should be up at double S, but at least for now, he does get a bit of a boost. Moving on to the final of the S tier, we have the dark units, and we let off with Oxlots. Oxlot's the best cleave unit, the best cleave opener in the game, in terms of with an attack buff. So you guys all know what he does by now. He single target boosts somebody into an instant turn. Plus, he can do it every other turn, which is really nice. He's still just as good as he's always been. He's fantastic in Guild War, Arena, RTA. He doesn't really have much use outside of PvP, so that's why he's not higher, but he's still best in slot for that job. Next, we have Champion Zerato, the king of raid and any debuff PvE. He's very, very good there. You can also use him in Guild War. He doesn't have much of a spot in RTA. He's just overwhelmed as he's countered by almost everything in RTA. He's kind of like ML Ken in that regard, is that everything counters him. He just gets ignored. I know there was a couple people who were trying to talk him up partway through last season, and it just every time he goes into a fight, he just loses. So not really great in RTA. We saw that in the Zhankai Cup as well, as every time he was drafted, he lost. I think he had the worst win rate out of anybody in the Zhankai Cup, out of anyone that had a certain amount of drafts anyway. But he's still a very, very good unit. He's top tier. He's great for PvE. He's great in Raid. He's great in Abyss. He's great in a lot of places that have debuffs. I use him on my Raid team. And you can also use him in Guild War. Great against Cerise, great against Blue Tenebria, stuff like that, especially in Guild War. He can also, if you're running that kind of team in RTA, you can draft him, and a lot of times they'll just ban him. So he could be ban bait in very specific situations, which is valuable. Just be very careful, because if you don't last pick him, he'll just die. And moving on, we have Sidom. Sidom, obviously, with Oxlots there, Sidom is one of the best cleave units in the game still. She gets used a little bit less now in RTA, but still top tier in Guild War, still top tier in Arena. She's a massively strong damage dealer. She can one-shot pretty much anything given good enough gear. I know I don't use mine nearly as often, but she's still very, very good and very scary. Speaking of very scary, we have Operator Cigarette. Operator Cigarette's another one you could argue should be a tier higher on this list. But with Cleave not getting as much play as it was, I feel like somebody had to suffer from these dark units. Dark units being so much stronger than any other color. Um, she's crazy strong though. When given good gear and max skilled, she can one shot anything. She's got the strip pushback. She's got AoE attack buff. She can be a great opener. She can be a great in between unit. And she can be a great nuke unit, and you don't know how that unit is built, which is one of the things that's scariest about her, is that she can do multiple different roles depending on how you build her. And in RTA especially, it's a big thing because if you don't know how they're built, it's a big advantage for the enemy. So keep her in mind. Top tier, definitely deserving of this rank and potentially more. Next up, we have Mercedes. Now, Mercedes Shadow is an interesting one and kind of debated as to how good she is. A couple people swear by her, but then you never see her. So the whole Zhankai Cup, I don't even know if she ever even got picked. She got very little play. The people that do use her love her. She's just a tough unit to use because she's kind of easy to draft around. She kind of reminds me of units like Elfelt and units that like Tamai's area, units that need very specific teams, and once those teams are like set up, it's very easy to ban around. So like you could just bring SSB and immunity and leave her in, and then she just feeds SSB, right? Um, so interesting. She's good if you can get her working. I think she's good. I think she'd be very good. I think her best usage, even though a lot of people are bringing her really tanky, I think her best usage is almost in like a cleave role, where she can just survive a little longer, seal those annoying units to shut them down, and you kind of get the job done eventually. More of like a pseudo cleave, but she's an interesting one. We'll keep an eye on her. She's still relatively new. She could potentially move up or down, but I think she's in the right spot here at S rank. And the final S unit we have Crozet. So ML Crozet just got a big buff. He's getting a lot of play right now. I don't know if it's because he just got a buff or if people think he's actually really good. The new thing seems to be bringing him with Landy and Spectre Tenebria, and just whichever damage dealer gets left in, he tries to protect them. Um, and then he's counter stunning the entire time. You also see him paired a lot with Spez. I think him and Spez are really annoying together if you're fighting into it. Also, I have him on my baby account. I use him and my Spez together in Guild War just for fun. But he is very annoying to deal with, and I have a feeling we're gonna see him a lot in season 4. All right, next up, Double S. We're trying to keep this video at about an hour and a half, so it's gonna be really close. First up on the Double S, we have Fairy Tale Tenebria. So Fairy Tale Tenebria, one of the most prominent units and one of the most banned units, I think, in the Zhankai Cup as well. She's all over the place right now. I do think she's somewhat easy to counter in that all those cleansers we talked about earlier, if you have good cleansers built, they are going to shut her down. Also, there's another cleanser we're going to get to, two more cleansers we're going to get to, who are even better at shutting her down. So that, as well as the fact that FCC counters her as well. Um, she's kind of tricky to use, but when she gets through, if the teams are right, you just automatically lose. So she's so impactful. You could argue she should be higher because she can just finish fights on her own. If she goes first, strip buff blocks you, and provokes you, you're just dead. Very scary unit. So I don't know what else to say about her. Everyone knows how strong she is. Uh, you could argue she should be one higher. I think people are getting used to her now, though, and that's why I didn't put her higher. Is I think most players who play a lot have ways to deal with her now, and so we're starting to see her a little bit less. This is more of a preemptive drop to double S than it is anything else. Next up, we have Dizzy. Dizzy's another one. We don't see her a lot in RTA, but she's so good in PvE. Those debuffs can be so debilitating that if you don't have a way to deal with her, she can win the fight on her own, similar to Fairy Tail Tenebria. I feel like they're well suited to be right next to each other. So she's going to get a double S rank as well. Then we have Chu, the only non-limited in this double S ranking here. Chu just got a nice buff. I already had her in double S before her buff. I don't think the buff was enough to bring her up. Uh, she's still really good. But she was already potentially the best water pure bruiser, like HP based bruiser anyway. She's already really good. The buff doesn't. If you didn't like her before the buff, you probably still don't like her. But if you liked her before the buff, she's just that much better now. She can use her skill 2 faster. She can get a mini heal. The heal is underwhelming, but it's something, and it's free. So I think she deserves this double S rank. I know a lot of people didn't like the fact that she was this high last time, but I think now she's getting the respect she deserves. Whenever I bring her in, she seems to get banned now. So definitely a unit to be scared of. Then we have DN, the final water unit on the double S tier. Uh, she took a bit of a hit with landing, and now I feel like she's starting to come back a little bit. We saw her quite a bit in the Jankai Cup. Um, attack buff, heal, cleanse, very good kit. I'm gonna keep my eye on her because I like using her personally, but I haven't been using her much recently because of a lot of the landies out there. But she's interesting. I don't know how I feel about her. We'll have to see. Um, I still think she's just right where she should be, though. Her kit is too good to drop her down, and I don't think she's good enough to move up. Up next, we have, I think oh no, not our, almost our final 3-star. Our second last 3-star on the list, we have Raz. Um, Raz does what he does. He's one of the best defense buffers in the game. He's also got that team up where he can defense break and potentially nuke you, depending on who he's running with. He's very strong, very scary. Um, Part of the reason why Blue Crow got knocked down a rank is because of him. Just a better all-around unit, and also provides the defense buff. So you guys all know what he does. Raz, very strong, and double S. Next, we have Fire Tenebria. Fire Tenebria, I debated dropping down. I think I said the same thing last quarter, but I left her here because she's still very good. She still has an insane kit. She had a defense break, a slow. She can do damage. The S1 sleep lets her cycle really fast. She's also got a sleep on her skill 3. I mean, she can single-handedly win a fight, and I just can't find it in me to bring her down to S rank yet. Even though she's not as meta as she used to be, she's still very good and very scary. Um, so she's going to fall in at that double S rank. She's also very good in the Wind Expedition as well. Speaking of units who are good in the Wind Expedition, we have Kayron. Kayron is still very good anti-cleave. You don't see a lot of cleaves anymore. He's not really all that meta in RTA or Arena, but he gets a lot of play in Guild War, and also very good in the Wind Expedition as well. So he's going to stay at double S. A unit who is finally getting a little more love, and you're seeing her a little more at high levels, is Charlotte. So Fire Charlotte, I think when I made this list last time, a few people were like, "Why is Fire Charlotte that high?" And now you're starting to see people use her more. Um, she's become very impactful with all the stealth, with Guiding Light especially, um, because she can AOE every single turn when she has a buff. The fact that she can do that means that she can take all those units out of stealth, and she does big damage, and she's a bruiser, and she self buffs. She's a real annoying unit to deal with when she's drafted properly. So keep her in mind if you're having a hard time with Spectre or with Guiding Light. Fire Charlotte is a good option. The final unit in double S for Fire is going to be Lilius. Lilius, still a top tier cleanser, very good against the current meta. She can be pushed back, and she doesn't provide immunity, and she doesn't heal. To make up for that, she does have the S1 team ups and the 2-turn provoke, so she's a good option. I don't particularly use her because she always seems to team up with the worst possible unit for me. Um, but she's still very good in that role. If you have teams that she works with, then she will do you a lot of good. Over to the double S units, we have Izaria leading it off. Um, Izaria is still top tier. She used to be triple S. She's down to double S now. She's not quite as prevalent as she used to be, which kind of surprises me that that happened to her. Um, I feel like at some point we'll see her back up at triple S, but her reset. If you see her in RTA, you're banning her. She has probably one of the higher ban rates, along with her ML counterpart. Um, oh, there she is. Sorry. Um, just because she does so much. I mean, the strip, the defense break, the skill resets with her skill 2. She does something nobody else does. I feel like as the game goes on, she's going to always be relevant and potentially even get better as the game moves on. So she is a very strong double S unit and a good unit to have all the way through the game, from early game to late game. Next, we have Euphine. I debated dropping Euphine down. I think her use in Guild War offense is just so strong. Although you don't see a lot of as many SSBs on Guild War defense as we used to. Um, I feel like that's partially because of her, because she just used to pop them. But we'll see what happens with her. She could potentially be moved down in rank next time. She doesn't get as much play as she used to. I still think she's crazy good. I was using her in RTA for a bit and had a lot of fun with her, but she's mainly a used in like one shot teams now, if you can get the gear good enough to make it work. Next we have Vivian. Sorry, been talking for a long time. Vivian, AoE immunity, and it's 3 turns with attack buff. A lot of people primarily use her for hunts, whether it be Asmanic or Banshee, but she can also be really good in PvP, and she's relatively easy to get up in that 250 speed range, go first, put up immunity. With her exclusive, she cycles very fast and can completely wipe teams, so keep her in mind. Next up, we have Light, and you can see we have a lot of Light units here. They all kind of get bunched up into this double S range. So let's start with, we have 3 units that are double S plus, uh, both in Light and in Dark. I didn't really have an extra tier for them. Maybe I should do that next time. But I feel like they're double S, but they're just because they're not quite triple S. But I feel like putting them in double S is disrespectful. So we're gonna get to them in a minute. We'll start with the pure double S units, starting at the bottom. We're gonna start with Judge Kise. Still the best AoE cleave unit in the game. Uh, she can go twice, AoE both times, and nuke. For that reason, I can't move her any lower, but she's definitely not as high as she used to be. She's probably on the lower half of the double S units, but she's still crazy strong, and you have to respect what she can do. Next, a unit who recently got a buff and moved up on the list is Spez. Spez, really scary. He was always really scary, and I thought he was always really good, but now with this buff, the fact that he can counter stun for himself, um, seeing him a lot more in RTA now. He's a lot of fun to play with. Really, really strong. Does insane damage with his skill 3 and resets his own cooldown. He's also another unit who is basically a must ban. Probably one of the higher ban rates in RTA as well. Just because if people are bringing him in, they've got the units around him to make him work, and he's probably going to win. He's another one that gets paired with ML Crozet as well. Next up, we have the second best reviver in the game in Maid Chloe. Maid Chloe, still really good. A lot of people hate on her and say she needs a buff. I honestly don't think she needs a buff, and I hope they don't give her one because I think she'd be too strong. I have a plus 15 maid, and I would love to use her more. But honestly, if she got buffed, I think she would be honestly too strong, and it would change the meta back to the annoying tank revive meta that we had before. I think she's good right where she is. She's not too strong. She's not too weak. She's just right. She provides attack buff. She's the only unit in the game that can AoE revive. Um, Plus, she's got an AoE heal and the skill 1 stun. I think she's ridiculously underrated, and I don't understand why people hate on her so much. I think it's partially because of ML Haste, but a lot of people I think are just drafting her. If you pick her late in the draft, she's very good. Yeah, obviously, if you pick her early in the draft, she's easy to counter, but that means you're just not using her right. Next, we have DJ Bassar. So DJ Bassar recently got a buff as well, and he rockets up the list even more, up to double S now. He is one of the best units in the game now, by far. If you didn't like him before, you were probably crazy for not liking him. But now he's so easy to build as well. He just counters so much in the current meta. If you We're gonna take a look at these triple S units in a minute, but if you take a quick glance at them, he counters all of them. Like his purpose is to counter all the triple S units. Not all of them, I guess, but a lot of the important ones. He counters Tywin, he counters Bassar, he counters Flurry, he counters Cecilia, he counters Cerise, he counters Fairy Tale Tenebria, he counters SSB, he counters Dizzy. Like, you name it, he does it. And if you counter all the best units in the game, you're very, very good. And now with him healing on his skill 3 as well as his skill 1, plus he's got a stun, plus he's got much easier to build now. Um, he's got that AoE cleanse into immunity as well, like Ray. He is insane and one of my most wanted units. Up next, we have Doris. I think Doris falls just behind Raz in 3-star only tier list. But she's insanely strong. If you're fighting into a Doris, you're going to have a hard time because that heal over time is ridiculously underrated. Plus, she's got a really strong defense buff. She's annoying to deal with. The CR push, the cleanse, she's got it all. If you haven't built your Doris, you should, especially if you're doing RTA. And she's also insanely strong for Guild War against this ridiculous dark lineup over on the right. So the final normal double S unit is going to be Sage Ball. Sage Ball strip. Speaking of units that DJ Bassar counters, I forgot Sage Ball. So Sage Ball is another one. Strip into sleep, plus he can cycle, plus he can do huge damage with his skill 3, nuking people. One of, if not the best counter cleave unit in the game, especially if, say, people are going Oxlot Sedum, or Oxlot's Watcher Shuri. A lot of people are building tanky Sage Balls, and that plus Aureus plus Proof of Valor, a lot of times he'll survive. If he just barely survives, he also boosts himself, which means now that you've taken a couple of turns, if you've gone Oxlots into Sedum, Sedum skill 3, Sedum skill 1, you've now taken 3 turns, which means he got 3 boosts. He now gets to take a turn, and because you didn't kill him, he's down low health, and he can now one-shot you and heal back to full. Sage Ball, really scary. Also good into Flitica if you don't have Seed on there, because he will cut right away and get to go into his turn. I can't say enough about Sage Ball in RTA and how good he is. He's definitely top tier, and if you haven't built him yet, you should have. Let's do the double S plus units after we finish the regular double S units. So we're gonna go over to Dark. We're gonna start with Lilibet. ML Lilibet. If you built her and you're using her as one of your cleansers, she's not good against Bassar, but against all the other strips and strip buff blocks, she's like broken good. She's so good against Cerise. She's so good against Fairy Tale Tenebria, all those kind of units, because her passive always works, so she can always cleanse and boost herself, even after first turn. Now, granted, she's not. Don't want to really bring her into Bassar, but all the other ones, she's a game changer. She makes it so that you don't necessarily have to go 2 full cleanses. So a lot of times in RTA, say the enemy brings Cerise and Fairy Tale Tenebria. It's a very normal combo, so we're going to use that as an example. If they bring those 2, before you had to bring like Ray and say DJ Bassar as an example. You had to bring 2 cleansers that could both cleanse off debuff so that they couldn't just ban one of them. Now, you could bring one, so say you bring Ray, but you can bring Lilibet as well, so you're not suffering from damage. The thing that makes a difference there is before, if you went two cleansers, they could just overwhelm you. They could just bring enough damage that you didn't, or be tanky enough that you couldn't kill them. Um, because you're sacrificing a lot of damage by going two healers there. And if you only go one healer, then they just ban the healer and you get debuffed and lose. So it was kind of a tricky situation. But now being able to bring Lilibet, she can do enormous damage plus the cleanse, which means you're not sacrificing damage, and you can still bring one cleanse for the heal. And so they have to make a decision. Do they either ban her or do they ban your cleanse? And either way, you don't have to worry about the debuffs. So crazy strong. A lot of people that got into Legend RTA this season swear by her and say she's a big part of the reason that they were able to make it to Legend. Up next, we have Bizaria. So Bizaria, I feel like maybe should be double S plus. You know what? Let's just do it. I was debating this earlier and I left her where she was, but given what I was thinking, I'm going to change it. So let's come back to her. Next up, Ravi. So a lot of people are going to be happy here. I actually moved Ravi down. I've had Ravi triple S for a long, long, long time. I moved her down to double S. She is, in my opinion, at least the best reviver in the game because she has the ability to one shot and revive into an automatic turn. And I think that's very underrated. Whereas Ruel and Maid both revive into wherever they were when they died. So if they died at 0% attack bar and Ravi and Maid revives, then they get revived at 0% attack bar and just killed again. Whereas with Ravi, no matter where they died on the attack bar, when she revives, they get an instant turn and they have skill prevent, so they're most likely going to get at least 2 turns after the revive. So when she's soloing a fight, she first of all tends to revive. The revive is random, which is the only thing that keeps her from being completely broken. But it's just so ridiculous. Like the ability to one shot somebody plus get an extra turn from whoever you're reviving. Um, She also doesn't really take damage. You can hit her 100 times and she'll still be alive because she mitigates almost all of her incoming damage. She's very hard to deal with. I think she's massively underrated, even though I still have her at double S. You see her a lot in Asia server. You don't see her a lot in global, but she's crazy, crazy strong. And if you have her and you're not using her, then you're missing out because she's very, very good. Speaking of units, I moved down Rylet. So Rylet, I had at triple S for the longest time, and then I think we moved him down to double S plus last quarter, and this quarter I've got him down to double S. He, with all the fixed damage, especially Last Rider Crowd, plus the fact that he's very RNG, and the fact that Bizaria is more prevalent now, um, he's kind of taking a hit, and you don't see him nearly as often as he used to. He's still very good, obviously. He's still double S. He's still one of the best units in the game, but so RNG that you just don't see him as often anymore. People don't like relying on him. A lot of people have actually changed builds on him. They, instead of being fast, they've slowed him down and put lifesteal on him to try and give him some sustainability. But he's going to fall in at double S. Let's come back to the light units, and we'll do double S plus, and then we'll get into the triple S and wrap things up. First unit in the double S plus, I actually moved down as well. It's Flitica. She's always been, since her release, she's always been triple S. I dropped her down a little bit because you just don't see her as much anymore, but she's still insanely strong. I know a lot of people don't think she should even be this high, but top tier Guild War, top tier RTA, top tier Arena. The skill reset's really strong. She's got a strip, she's got a boost. She just does too much to not be double S plus. I still use her all the time in RTA. In bruiser fights, I use her in cleaves. I use her all over the place in RTA, and she's one of the most pre-banned units in RTA for me because people know that my Elitica is going to cause them problems. So She is top tier, and you're very lucky if you have her. Speaking of very good units, Tempest, she's an interesting one. I don't know if she should really still be this high. I'm going to give her one more quarter. I feel like next quarter she'll probably be double S. But she still gets a lot of play from a lot of people, even though I don't really use her much anymore. Um, she's not as prevalent. She's still very prevalent on Guild War defense, but she's not as prevalent on arena defense. I feel like a lot of people in RTA use her in more of an offensive role. They're drafting her into Spectre. Um, Also, having her on lifesteal helps her take more than 2 hits, which is nice. But yeah, she's very good. She's just another AoE option. She can cycle very fast and obviously very good because she just isn't. She's a nuker that has some sustainability. The final light unit is going to be LQC. I actually debated making her triple S here because I think she's just broken strong, one of the hardest units to deal with. Also, having the ability to one-shot any dark unit in the game is huge. The ability to burn into an extra turn, to self-heal, run her on Scythe, and she can basically full heal even with her S1. She's kind of ridiculous to deal with. I left her here because there are a lot of good dark units, even though she can one-shot them. Um, there's still a good amount of ways to deal with her. So that's why she's going to fall in at double S plus. Another ridiculously strong unit if you happen to have her. Over to the dark units, we have ML Lulu. ML Lulu, one of my favorite units to use in the game with, well, not with, but along with LQC. She's got that team boost plus one-shot power plus anti-damage share. Very good in cleaves, but also good as like an opening unit if the enemy team isn't that fast, but you just want to get first turn. Very strong, very hard hitting as well. She always does more damage than you expect her to. Then we have Spectre Tenebria, another unit who I personally think took a hit, but a lot of people swear by her, and because of that, I left her at double S plus. We saw her a ton in the Jankai Cup. That being said, I feel like she lost a lot. There's so many things that counter her now. I feel like she's going to be down to double S next list. Her early damage in fights isn't very good. She just scales so well late in fights, and if you can keep her alive long enough, like with Crozets and stuff, then she can potentially be very scary. But we'll have to see how she does this season. Next, we have ML Haste. ML Haste, one of the best RB counters out there. He is, especially in RTA, he's pretty much a must ban. He doesn't get a lot of play outside of PvP, but he's very good in Arena, RTA, and Guild War. That, along with his fixed damage, is really scary. And he's also a must ban, which in RTA is very important. All right. Final double S unit, double S plus unit is Bizaria. So Bizaria, you guys all know by now how strong she is. There was a whole video put out on her rating, memeing her rating. Uh, People bashed her when they buffed her, and she was already top tier. Everybody before the buff, if you were in Legend RTA, if you were in top 500 RTA, Bizaria was already a must ban. She was every time she was drafted, she was banned automatically, and then she got buffed, and everybody, myself included, was like, "Oh crap, Bizaria got a buff. This could be game breaking." It turned out not to be game breaking, thankfully, but she's still very much a must ban. The buff didn't really do all that much for her. It wasn't a great buff, thank God. Because if it had been, she would have been game breaking. She's one of the scariest units in the game. Any unit that can strip and buff block is ridiculously broken. Um, along with Basar are really strong. She's like a Basar that she can't burn into irresistible, but she also does damage, which he doesn't, and she's element neutral, and she has an S1 defense break. I can't say enough good things about her. She could easily be triple S on this list. I just don't want to deal with the people who decide to bash her rating. So I would bet that next quarter she'll probably be triple S on this list. She is ridiculously strong. Like I said, I can't say enough good things about her. She's so scary and so hard to deal with. Once she gets her skill 3 off, you're probably dead. All right, here we are, Triple S. We made it. Video's gone on a little longer, but we keep getting more units. These videos are going to keep getting longer because they keep giving us new units all the time. But anyway, starting off with the water units, we have SSB. She's always going to be Triple S. She has come back to the pack a little bit. She was probably like broken tier for a bit, but with so many things constantly countering her, there's a lot of ways to deal with her now, and we don't see her nearly as much as we used to. She's still top tier in every aspect of the game, which is why she's still Triple S. Whether it be any PvE or any PvP, she's still good. So she's a long way before she would even be considered to be dropped down to double S, but she's just not next level broken anymore. Although she did recently get a small buff because of the changes to her bug there, but that's another story for another day. Up next, we have Water Cigarette. So Water Cigarette is an interesting one. I debated dropping her down one, maybe next quarter. I'm gonna leave her here because she's still ridiculously strong. She's top. She's best in game for Wyvern. She's best in game for any fire content really, other than Expedition, because she's gonna do insane damage plus extra turns. And she just stacks so well. She got a crazy kit. Plus, she's got Extinction, which means she's one of the best Guild War offense units in the game as well. You can just Oxlots into her and kill most Guild War defenses. You can probably kill 2 people, if not 3, with that combination. And then in RTA, in Cleave, she gets some play as well. Although, granted, that's not as viable as it used to be, which is why I would consider dropping her down. She's not completely broken in RTA anymore. But just because of her usage and the fact that she's best in slot for the most important dungeon in the game, as well as having PvP usage, I think she still qualifies to be double S, but she might drop down. Sorry, she still qualifies to be triple S, but she might drop down to double S for the next one. Next up, we have Cerise, and Cerise, one of the best units in the game as well, obviously. She's triple S. One of the most annoying units to deal with because of the slow and the restrict. And a big part of the reason why all these cleansers that we've talked about today are meta. And she's the reason for it, is the strip into restrict and slow, along with her stun, her buff block, her team up, running Confile into defense breaks and nukes. Like, she does it all. She can fit into any team as well and can solo a lot of teams, and is also very good against a lot of these triple S units as well. So keep that in mind. If you haven't already built her, you should have. Oh man. And yeah, she's very, very good. Next up, we have Fire Cecilia. So Fire Cecilia, another contested one at this rank. A lot of people maybe don't think she should be this high. I still think she should be. First of all, she's Knight class, which means she's automatically good. But she has an S1 defense break, S2 strip, S2 AoE strip, S2 AoE attack break, S3 damage AoE, and S3 AoE provoke, and S3 AoE immunity. She has one of the most loaded kits in the game. She's insanely strong, and I see even top level players bashing her, and I don't understand it. Not necessarily bashing her, but like not giving her the respect that she deserves. The reason I think that happens is because those people have Last Rider Crow, so they have no reason to build Cecilia, and they have no reason to ever test her. But she can do big damage along with having one of the most loaded kits in the game. She's another one for me anyway. She gets banned a lot. Like if I draft her, people are like, nope, I can't deal with her. I have to ban her. Definitely one of the most loaded kits in the game. She's ridiculously strong. If you have Last Rider Crow, I can understand if you don't want to build her. I still think she'd be good, but Last Rider Crow is very similar in terms of where you would draft them both, so it kind of makes sense that you might not need her. But if you don't have Last Rider Crow and you have Fire Cecilia, you should have her built, and there's no question about it. Next up, we have Fire Ravi. So Fire Ravi, one of the most popular units in RTA right now, drafted all over the place. People building units just to counter her because of how much she's getting built. Uh, a good Fire Ravi can win you fights you don't deserve to win. She can just sometimes solo, and granted, a lot of the times when she solos, it just stands out. So you think she wins a higher percentage of fights than she does, because she also just dies a lot of times. Um, but her wins are flashy, and she's an exciting unit to use because you can potentially solo people. Um, so she's definitely triple S in that she can win fights on her own. Just don't draft. I think people are overdrafting her right now, and maybe using her a little too much. But she's still triple S. Hard to argue. She's all over the place right now, and a lot of people have got some of their best gear on her. So for that reason, she is triple S. Next up, we have the wind units, and our final 3-star of the day is going to be Flurry. Definitely deserving of this. One of the most pestering units in RTA. Annoying to deal with. She's great in PvE as well. She's got a strip, a defense break. She self-cycles a ridiculous amount. That S1 boosting her into multiple turns, the amount of times you'll go into a fight and she'll get like 3 consecutive turns, which shouldn't be possible, but it somehow is because Justice for All is crazy as well on her. And then she can just skill 3 again and self heal. It's just. She's got a loaded kit. It's probably a little too strong, but they do need some good 3-star units to kind of keep the balance within the pay to win, free to play sort of thing. So that's why she's that strong, and you should definitely build her if you haven't already. Next, we have Basar. Basar, the primary strip buff block in the game. Although he's not element neutral, he can burn into his skill 3, which makes it irresistible, and be able to push back those high res targets and not have to worry about 15% resistance. Um, if he gets his skill 3 off, you're probably in trouble because not only are you now buff blocked, but the enemy team is going to go before you now because his pushback as well with that buff block is really strong and makes a big difference because now they can do all sorts of things to you. Any units who were in stealth are now out of stealth. They're buff blocked. You can't put up any buffs. He's really tough to deal with. Up next, we have Alencia. Alencia, one of my favorite units to open with in RTA. I also use her a lot in Guild War. I use her in Arena. I use her on Guild War defense, Arena defense. She's used everywhere. She's good everywhere in the game. She's got huge damage on her skill 3, huge AoE damage on her skill 3. She's got an AoE strip. She can nuke people with her S1. Um, I've had her S1 nuke SSBs. I've had her AoE nuke entire teams. That plus the fact that she's got a defense buff makes her probably the best defense buffer in the game. On top of the fact she's got huge damage and a strip, she's one of the best units in the game and one of the most flexible openers in the game as well, which is one of the main reasons why I open with her in RTA. Up next, we have Landy. Whoever would have guessed that Landy would have gone from unusable to triple S, but here we are. Last tier list, I think I had her up at double S, and now I moved her up another tier. She's just so good. She counters so many things, and the turn cycling she provides is probably her most valuable asset outside of her damage potential. Her damage potential is huge, but having that is just next level. So if you have Landy, you should definitely build her. She's a huge counter to a lot of the current things. Plus, being able to burn into extra turns, she can be built on more of a damage build. She can be built tanky. She can be built fast. You don't really know how she's built, and that makes her very hard to deal with. That combined with Guiding Light being as strong as it is, and you may not be able to kill her even if she is squishy. So keep that in mind. But Landy definitely deserving of that triple S ranking. Speaking of broken units, we have ML Tywin. A couple tier lists ago, we had him up at triple S plus in the broken tier. We have since moved him down to just regular triple S because there is now more immunity and more ways to deal with him. But he's still insanely strong. We saw in the Jankai Cup him just soloing fights all over the place. Fights that people are completely out of and have no chance to win. They still win because of him. the fact that he can basically stun every single turn and lock down an entire team all by himself is ridiculous. That combined with the Soul Steal and the automatic cleanses, and he is ridiculous and probably my most wanted unit out of any unit in the game. Then we have Last Rider Crow. We talked about him a little bit when we talked about Cecilia, but one of the best immunity givers in the game. Very good in RTA and Arena. He can be great in Arena auto comps, and also in RTA he's very good because not only do you have immunity, but he gives your team shields every single turn and self reduces his own cooldown on his skill 3 plus fixed damage, plus the fact that it scales so well as time goes on. It self scales, plus obviously with Frenzy as well. Crow can solo fights, and he can win fights on his own. And by definition, that just makes him triple S automatically. Combine that with the fact that he's got AoE immunity, and there's no argument, I don't think, about him being one of the top 5 units in the game. Next up, we have Arby. Still triple S. He's been triple S for a long time now, and that's not going anywhere. Probably the unit that has 2 versions built of him on most accounts that have 2 of them, are the unit that has most been built twice on single accounts. A lot of people run a DGen RB and then a speed RB. Speed RB plus Crow means you're probably guaranteed to get to champion RTA just with those 2. Throw a basket on him, and you're just going to win fights that you shouldn't win. And that's going to change the game for you if you happen to have him. I think basket is the problem, not necessarily RB. But while basket is as strong as it is, RB is still going to be kind of busted. There are a lot of ways to deal with him now with Singelica and ML Haste and all the extinction units. He's not as big of a problem as he was, but he's still crazy strong and can still win fights that you probably shouldn't win. So for that reason, he is triple S. And our final unit today is another unit that's been triple S forever, and that is FCC. FCC is still crazy strong. The shields every turn, plus how incredibly thick she is, plus the damage she provides, and she counters a lot of the single buff strips as well, means she is also triple S. And that is it for our Epic 7 tier list in the... Oh, man. We did this entire video, and I didn't change the title. Here. There. Second quarter. Let's pretend that didn't happen, because we are almost 2 hours into this video, and I'm not re-recording it. Anyway, that is going to be it for today's tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This video takes a lot of work to put out, so I really appreciate your guys' support. Make sure you leave your opinions down in the comment section down below. Please be civil, whether it be toward me or anybody else in their opinions. Hopefully everybody enjoyed it. Have a great day, and we will see you all next time. Bye for now, guys.